whether it was, I think, the Roman legions or whatever. Young men always do the fighting. The war started by older men, and sometimes those young men don't really know why they're fighting, but they all answer the call.
Six days before my return to the States and discharge, my whole life went upside down. 5 Americans, we had 200 South Vietnamese soldiers with us, and we got surrounded by 30,000 NVA and Viet Cong soldiers. I said, okay guys, talking to the military, put everything you got around our position or on top of us. Get these guys out of here. Because the last thing I ever wanted to have happen to me was to be captured, not knowing what would happen. Well, of course, I had just been wounded, prior to me getting back on the radio, and literally saw my whole life flash before me. I said, this is it.
Courage, duty, survival, fear. These are the emotions of war. Emotions felt deeply and lived fully. Heard firsthand, these emotions convey a deeper understanding of war and the men and women who serve.
Every soldier has a common bond of an experience at a time in their life when they were usually in their late teens, early 20s, and they were all thinking the same thing to some extent, probably headlined by, why am I here? Dear Lord, what did you do to me? And we all have the same experience. I don't care if you were in boot camp in 1861 or 1775 or whatever the equivalent was, the same thoughts transpired in that soldier's mind, and they're transpiring today somewhere in this country in another soldier's mind.
There's something about mouth to ear that stays with you, I think, more than just what the written word. I think mouth to ear is much more compelling because you're normally looking at someone, you're seeing their gestures, you're seeing their eyesight, and I just think that it just reinforces, so to speak, what the written word is about.
Imagine if we could listen to David Crockett himself at the Alamo, or Sam Houston or Juan Seguin describe the Battle of San Jacinto in their own voices.
You hear it from the words of somebody who lived it, or in the case of my grandmother, who heard it firsthand. It's a little different than having it put in a printed word. It has more impact, it has more personal connection than reading in a book.
Created by Texas Land Commissioner Jerry Patterson, the VLB Voices of Veterans program records the oral histories of men and women who served our nation in time of war to preserve these memories for future generations. History, after all, is best told by those who were actually there.
I think oral history is important because several reasons. An oral history presentation, you can't be misquoted. It is what it is. In the history books, we all know sometimes don't tell the full and complete accurate story or give an abbreviated version. So when you have an oral history opportunity to actually share your experiences and whatever the case might be, that is recorded for posterity's sake.
Nothing is more powerful than the spoken word. For many veterans and their families, they uncover memories never shared and become treasured family keepsakes.
They don't think they have anything of importance, and that's absolutely incorrect, because we're not interviewing generals or field marshals or admirals. We're interviewing PFCs, second lieutenants, guys and gals who were down there, to use a cliche, in the trenches, who experienced the everyday things that are not recorded in history books. And so that's why it's really important that their story be recorded.
Entitled Every Veteran Has a Story to Tell, this Capitol Visitor Center exhibit features only a few of the many veterans who have shared their stories, and in so doing, hopes to honor those veterans whose stories may remain untold.
You know, it brings maybe this display we have, the Voices of Veterans display. Maybe some youngster will, venture in there, push the button on the kiosk and go, wow, I never heard of that.
When you're in the 8th grade now, you're studying World War II. And if they can get a hold of somebody like myself that was in World War II to come and speak to the school or to speak to a class or whatever, they're thrilled beyond words. So that message going out to our young children in our 7th and our 8th grades is so important. It makes a lasting impression.
I think it's our responsibility as American citizens to serve when our country asks. And so if you can capture that information and experience from those individuals in an oral history program, then maybe we can learn going forward mistakes we've made, or how do you react in this situation? You know, what was it like being a POW? What was it like being wounded on the battlefield or almost dying, or just serving your country in a peaceful environment?
Together, the oral histories of the Voices of Veterans program echo a common, simple idea: that ordinary men and women, faced with incredible adversity, can accomplish extraordinary things.
Well, I'd probably say that it's so important for your own family and for your children, if you have any, and for the world, for that fact, to be able to know a little something about yesteryears and the price that was paid for our freedom today.
If you are a veteran, or know a veteran who should share his or her story with future generations, please contact the VLB Voices of Veterans program today. Call 1-800-252-VETS or visit voicesofveterans.org to get started. Do your part to honor our veterans and preserve all the stories they have yet to tell.